Welcome back to your weekly edition of the top 10 selling reserve list cards, January 20th to the 27th of 2024. Now in today's video, we are going to go through some surprising upticks in reserve list sales, discuss how the market conditions are affecting players, and of course, supply and demand. Stay tuned, we have a lot to cover in today's video. Hi everyone and welcome back. MTG Moxman here, and thanks again for hanging out with me on the channel today. A reminder before we start today's video that if you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, turn on your notification bells, new videos every day. And of course, you can support me on TCG Player. You can find my link below in the description of the video. Click the link, you're helping the channel. Thanks again everyone. So let's start out at number 10. Now this is a card, of course, that has a lot of desirability. We are talking about Mox Diamond. Now 28 sales may not seem like a lot, but when this card is going for over $650 per card, that's a total sales volume of $18,199.72. Now when I say that number, please keep in mind that would be for near mint condition cards, and that is not exactly the case. What we're seeing right now is a lot of moderately played cards and a lot of light played moving. And of course, if you've been paying attention to my reserve list videos, you've noticed that overall we've had a stability in the market and an overall uptick on cards like this, gaining 30-40 bucks month over month. Means these cards are now shifting upward and the supply demand is kind of turning ever so slightly in the favor of the seller. Keep that in mind. If you're a player who wants to buy these cards, it can save you a few bucks. Now here we are dropping down to number 9. This is City of Traders from Exodus. This is a card that was on my top 10 list of cards to buy, and it looks like maybe a few people took that to heart because 29 sales this week equals $12,611 in sales volume. Now the 29 sales may not represent some massive movement on the market, but this card has gained like 20% of its total value in the last 30 days. This card has been upshifting huge. Players are taking advantage of it, and the demand on this card is high while the stock is low. When you have low stock in a card, it becomes that seller's market where they can charge more because there is less likely to have a big glut in the market waiting to be bought and sold. So keep that in mind, guys. I would wait for this card to calm down. It's a great card. I think everyone should try to get a copy of it, but I would wait another 3 months. Let's see if this card shifts down or what's going to happen, but it's really pricey right now to buy that card when it's had that kind of market growth in the last 90 days. So here we are taking a look at our next card. This is City of Shadows. I love the card. It's from the Dark 4 Horsemen set, 46 sales this week, but it's only $2,560 in overall sales volume. That's because this card is no longer a $200 card. This card has been as low as $30 if you go to TCG Player. Guys, it's so cheap to get this card, and there's so many ways of utilizing the card, and because it's generic mana, it basically fits in any deck, so keep that in mind. This can be played in a multitude of commander decks, Vintage, Legacy. I love the card. I can't say enough nice things about it, but ultimately players are deciding if they're going to buy it or not. And because this card is not sought after, because it is not being utilized in a lot of decks right now, or nobody's using it with a big flourish of flavor, this card's going to sit pretty low right now. It's not going to be bought out or sold out or disappear. Supply and demand has no problems keeping up with this card, so there's no rush to buy it. Now our next card is a bit of a different matter. This is Wheel of Fortune Revised Edition. And this card continues to slowly gain in sales volumes. That means overall the 52 sales, which is $15,487, guys. We have these kind of markets moving, and we have these cards being bought and sold all the time. You would think they will balance out, but the shifting of sales is just kind of slowly ticking up, which means the price of the card, it's no longer, a $205 card. It's just slowly shifting up month over month. It gains $5 here, $10 there. And we're seeing that across the entire reserve list. Not the low end cards. I'm talking about the cards that are actually utilized day to day by a lot of players. They've stopped buying boxes. They're shifting into these cards, and they're taking advantage of what they can consider to be a good deal from where these cards used to be. Now, if people had left it alone for another year, these cards might have even dipped down lower. Players couldn't help themselves when they compared against the price of new boxes, so cards like Wheel of Fortune are probably going to keep upshifting, at least in the near future. Now, our next card is going to come to us, and this is Debt of Loyalty, Weatherlight. This thing has been on the list for the last couple of weeks, and it makes the list again with 57 sales this week. But that total sales volume of $455 is next to nothing. That's like less than a couple of Wheel of Fortunes, and that's a lot of sales. 57 is quite considerable for a 7-day period. When you look at the card and realize it regenerates target creature, and then you gain control of that creature, getting back your own creatures, bolting something, taking control of it, sacking it to the City of Shadows. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do, but either way, it's not an expensive card. It's not going to be an expensive card. A $10 to $20 card, this card is going to sit there for years on end because it's just not going to see the gameplay it would need to gain an overall following and have buyouts. Buyouts are not in the market right now for a lot of these cards, but we are seeing an upshift in sales. Brain Geyser is our next card, guys. Revised edition copies. This thing is $15.17 on average. 67 sales, though, means it hit over $1,000 in sales in a 7-day period. That is not a FOMO event. That is not something crazy, but it is a lot of sales. It's probably an uptick from what I did on my channel this week with the actual top 10 cards I think every player should own. When it's less than $15 a card, and you've seen it's been as high as $70, $80, it makes sense to buy a single copy. It does see a lot of play in Commander decks. It does see Vintage Legacy play, so it just kind of makes sense to at least own a copy. And if the card ever turns around, you've really come out ahead, and you've saved yourself time and money having to try to hunt down a copy in a FOMO world where the cards start upshifting in value and become unattainable and unaffordable for players. So I always like the idea of buying these cards when you can, and because of that, it takes the number 5 position. Now our next card, of course, is following through. It's revised again, and this is Fork. Again, another card I think every player should own, at least a couple of copies, preferably 4. This card's $40. 71 sales, and it's $2,800 in change in overall sales volume. But remembering that this card used to be $150 a copy means this is like 2/3 cheaper than it used to be, right? And when you see cards that cheap and players go, it's going to fall lower. Yes, but the lower it falls, the more attention players out there who are whales, players who have bigger pocketbooks and say, I can sit on 20, 30 copies, we can see where this card goes. This is not happening yet, but 71 sales, this upshift in a lot of these reserve list markets right now, it's very small, it's very gradual, there's no spike in price, but those little tiny upshifts happen month over month, and that's something to keep an eye on. That is something to pay attention to, and that's where I don't see players turning their eyes. They're looking at shiny, fancy new cards when they could be saving themselves a lot of headache later on if they ever need any of these cards. Dropping now down, we're going to take a look at our next card. This is Didgeridoo, of course. Again, top 10 cards I said every player should own, and it looks like players took this one to heart. 76 sales this week. But look at the sales volume. $678, because this is no longer a $60 reserve list card. You can get it for $8 and change for a near mint copy. Players were buying heavily played, damaged copies, moderately played, light played, yeah, sure, a few near mint, but the total sales volume, if they were all near mint, would be $678. So I'd probably say $450 to $500 in sales in the last 7 days, and somebody bought 76 copies. Now, let's not forget that sets like Homelands, Fallen Empires had print runs of around 260 million. There's still quite a few sealed boxes out there. This, again, the supply-demand is not there. But if we ever get Minotaurs or Minotaur Changeling type decks, if we get new cards, it's going to be disgusting to think about where that card's going to go. Conchorn's our next one, guys. All right, Fallen Empires, a 90-cent card. You forget the $4.31. 95 sales this week, $409. This is next to nothing in terms of sales volume, okay? 95 sales, woo, okay. I understand, guys, it looks like nothing, but this card is amazing. This card should be in everyone's deck. I love this card. It's a Fallen Empires card that basically mimics a Brainstorm. As I sit there and look at it and realize how low the sales volumes are, should this card be a $10, $15, $20 card? Maybe in the future, maybe. You never know where things are going to go. I think it should be in a lot of more decks than you see playing right now. I think a lot of players forget that older cards like this exist. But you compare this, it's like 4 Sheoldreds, and you get 95. It's just, my brain has a hard time adding up the totals here when you see how low the sales price are. When you can get this on TCG Player for like 60, 70 cents, it's insane to me to think that this card is so underpriced. Now, let's drop in and take a look at our number 1 card. This is Copy Artifact. Again, this week, 209 sales. Now, last week when it had 220-something sales, it was only $10,000 in sales volume. One little quick buyout FOMO event. We have 209 sales this week, but look at the price difference. $10,000 last week, $12,000 this week. That upshift of $5-6 across hundreds of copies has added up to another $2,000 in actual value sold. That is insane to think where FOMO can take cards, where price spikes can take people. People don't realize that if a FOMO event happens, a fear of missing out, and players jump on board, any card can upshift and spike in value, which can cause this whole snowball chain of events. Now, before we end off here, I want you to remember this, guys. These cards are at all-time lows. They're not always going to be there, especially when you see the market the way it is right now. Imagine what will happen if this card shifts up to being $150, $200 again. But before we end this out, before we go to the wrap-up, I want to do some honorable mentions today. Because although we have a lot of cards with volume, these aren't all heavy sales. So here we have Taiga. 27 sales. It didn't make the cut. But that's $9,800 in sales. That's more than 4 of the cards on this list of the top 10 combined. That's why I put it as an honorable mention. When you see all these dual lands that aren't going to make the cut, but it's because the other cards just have sheer volume weighted against them, it's kind of disgusting to think about, right? Now, our next card is going to be Underground Sea. This thing's $762. It's been losing in value, but its sales are still considerable. 22 sales, that's $16,000. So no, it's not making the top 10. But you guys need to know about this because if the price falls a little bit further, it gets more attention and it might make the top 10. But you need to know this in case you're looking for this card. Our next one again, it's another dual land, guys. Scrub land. You can see right here again, 20 sales. Not going to make the list, but that's $6,699 in volume. That is a crazy amount for just 20 cards. Just 20 in a single week period that I could track. It could be a lot more elsewhere if I had more volumes of information. It takes time to find these things out. But you look as an honorable mention, that's a lot of money moving in the market. And the last one I want to mention is a real surprise. This is Mishra's Workshop. Didn't make the list, but had 13 sales. But that 13 sales was $33,000 in sales volume. Just 13 sales. Nothing big. At least you don't think it's big. But when you realize the value of what just got sold, I have to mention it in the video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Let's stop here at the wrap up and let's finish out the video with a boom. So there you guys have it. I make a video that mentions the top 10 cards and increased sales volumes result in this small little buyout of a whole bunch of cards that are fairly decent and very underpriced and underutilized in so many decks. But the cards that could have made the list, the ones that are not high enough in volume but have a lot more value behind them, the honorable mentions are in the tens of thousands. Mishra's Workshop, crazy cards to see selling. 13 copies may not seem like a lot, but that's a huge volume considering how many were actually created of that card. Remember, when you're going back to old sets, they don't have the print runs that we see in the newer sets, where it's just in every shelf at every LGS you can get a Shoulder of the Apocalypse, you can get an Urboras, you can get a Vorinclex, you can go ahead and get a whole bunch of fetch lands, whatever you need. Older reserve list cards, like dual lands, City of Traders, Mox Diamond. These cards don't just exist at every store. Stores haven't restocked them. They're not coming back around. Stores are leery of what may happen. So they've sold off their stock. Players, they took advantage, bought a whole bunch of cheap cards, and are now sitting on them, holding them, utilizing them, playing with them, having a blast. Some people just have them sitting in binders. We know that. Tons. But what does this mean going forward for the supply-demand issue? Do you think the sales could be sustained week over week on those volumes without the prices going up? Of course not. There's not that many in the system. There's not that many. But as the price rises, we are likely to see more people take advantage of rising prices and try to sell their cards into the market, but understanding that these cards are only going to be good if players use them. They're only going to be good if they actually are going to be played and utilized, which means all these low-end reserve list cards that don't see a lot of play except for some janky fun decks and some creative ways players try using them, they're never going to go up into some serious stratosphere of value. They may get dragged up in price by higher-end cards like City of Traders, like Gaia's Cradle. Those may drag those cards up just by natural attrition of cards being old, but never to a true... Remember, Magic cards get value because they're played, because they can do crazy things in the game. There's lots of fun cards out there that everyone likes to play, including myself. Thralls. Thralls! Never going to be a powerful card. Love Thrall Champion. Could be something if they create Tribal Thrall. Didgeridoo can be something amazing when, not if, but when we get more Minotaurs. It's going to happen. Those kind of ones I have a lot of faith in because I think it's going to happen and happen quicker than people realize. 10 years is not so long a time for an investment card to go off. Like any other investment, like a stock or a bond, as much as people don't want to think MTG Finance really exists, it really does. People make a lot of money every day. You can see it in the card volumes. Either way, thanks a lot for stopping by the channel. Thanks for being here today. I hope you had a good time. Hope you enjoyed the honorable mention section. And of course, live stream tonight, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. We're going to talk more about what's been going on in the market. I hope you can stop by. We'll see you guys then. Enjoy the day. Thanks for coming. And hey, always bring a friend to Magic. A big shout out and thank you to all the fantastic patrons we have here on the channel supporting each and every day. Without the loyalty of these patrons, without my YouTube membership members, video content like this would just not be possible. So thanks again everyone who supports the channel. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Welcome back to the Ramble Jamble section. Here we are at the end. Now, here's a funny thing. I had two stores ask me questions. Because not all these stores watch my videos, but they may have watched them in the past. Whatever reason, we have a connection. And the stores asked me, hey, like, we had a couple of copies sell of this, or we had some wish lists get added for a couple of these reserve list cards. What's going on? And I explained my video, what happened. And they go, you're just a small channel with 20,000. Imagine 100,000 or 200,000 channel doing what you just did. Guys, that's market manipulation at its best. That's how it happens. The idea somebody mentions an uptick in price in something and people catch on to that, or I've convinced you to buy a card and you think it's going to go to the moon. Players need to decide for themselves where they think these cards are going. But the market is what the market is. The idea that these cards could come around is still a strong belief I hold on a lot of these cards. Because I've seen Wizards do it too many times now to ignore the fact that it's going to happen again. And you want to be primed for a position where you have the card already so you can use it when these great cards come along. You don't have to buy it at a super exorbitant high price. Imagine Didgeridoo goes off. Homelands card, $7. Goes off though. Something crazy happens. Some new 2 casting cost Minotaur that's a 3/3 first strike. I don't know, some crazy thing. And then all of a sudden, you have everyone buying Didgeridoo. And it goes to $40, $50, $80, $100. But you bought your playset of 4 for $30. You're sitting pretty, and actually you could sell into the market. I'd rather be there and be prepared and plan ahead of time, even far into the future, than have to scramble because I want to join what my friends are doing. I want to try some new creative idea because of the cards they've made. That's where I stand on a lot of these cards. I don't think the reserve list, by the way, is ever getting truly reprinted anymore. I think Wizards, every time this happens, they learn that lesson because players have bought these expensive cards. It gets further and further away from them, so they have to focus either on new cards that are similar, or they have to get... Anyway, I'm getting off topic. This is a long ramble jamble. I apologize. I just have so much going on in my head right now when I saw some of these sales and what the stores were talking about. Because they said, we're not restocking right now. We're not buying these cards as they go up in price. We're going to have to sit either with what cards we get cheap or what we happen to have. And if that's the way stores are going to take their attitudes going forward, these cards are truly going to be kind of harder to get. And they're always going to maintain a certain price level. At least I think they will. Anyway, thanks again for hanging. Thanks for chilling out. Enjoy the day. I mean, I'm looking down at piles of messes, but I'm going to clean them up. Don't worry, I'm going to clean them.